Welcome to the Human Together podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jason Floyd. Human Together is a show that is centered on humanity to create understanding and appreciation for individuals and groups that are both informative and thought-provoking. Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of the J.J. Arms interview. Part 1, you heard his origin story, how he overcame a horrific accident and ended up with 2 prosthetic arms. Today, you learn a lot more about his professional career as an investigator. Today, he shares an interesting story that involves Marlon Brando. I'll let him tell more about it.
You went on to a very successful professional career. Can you tell my listeners about that? What is your professional background? What's your business?
I am an international investigator. I work all over the world. I solve the cases that the FBI, that the police agencies, that they can't solve. I get called from all over the world. And
you've had some pretty famous cases over the years, correct?
I sure have. When Marlon Brando's son was kidnapped and they asked for ransom, Brando called me, and he was working on the last tango in Paris when he called me, because I had met him. I were into show business, and I would do a lot of bit parts and all that, because I went to the Pasadena Playhouse to study dramatics, and then I went to Ben Bart Players. So I was trying to do something that I wanted to do, and although I felt that I wanted to be a surgeon, I thought that I couldn't be a surgeon. So I started looking for different professions after I was educated. I came up against private investigators that always ended up in trouble, because all the PIs, private investigators, would be ex-police officers, and after they got fired from the police department or got involved in some scam, started playing both ends against the middle. And after looking at police agencies and trying to get a job as a police I got certified by the state of Texas as a peace officer, went through all the routines, and I still have my credentials. So I selected to be a private investigator, and I said I'm going to be a private investigator international. I'm not going to be just a regular private investigator. I want to work all over the world. I want to be specialized in homicide, suicide, missing persons, and all that. And I did. I did just that. So at that time, that's when I met Marlon Brando, when I was doing some movie parts. His son was kidnapped. First thing he called was J. Arms in El Paso, and he told me he was filming The Last Tango in Paris, and that his son had been kidnapped. And he wanted to hire me to locate him, and he had been in turmoil fighting for custody after he divorced Anna Cashry. That was wife, the biological mother of Christian Brando. I did the research. I went up there where he disappeared from in Beverly Hills, and found out that he had been close. These kidnappers had been close to Brando's wife's house, and I followed the lead and ended up with. At that time, I got to fly my Hughes 500. I had a helicopter, so I went in my Hughes 500 into Mexico, where my leads ended up at, and it was in San Felipe, Mexico, and it was a coast road all to the deepest part of San Felipe, and there was a fishing village that road ended up at, and it was close to the caves of the ocean, where the waves would create those caves, and that's where I found the car that I was looking for. It was a red Volkswagen. I had the license and all that. I finally located the license by flying real low on the coastline. I had a carbine, 30 caliber carbine with me. Everything I did was illegal, because I couldn't fly without a permit to Mexico, and I did. I just wanted to find the boy before they killed him because they were asking for a big ransom. I landed in Mexico. I landed at a schoolyard close to the federal customs, and my Hughes 500 and went into customs, and I wanted to lease 5 agents to go with me, and they found out that I came in a helicopter, so they said, One of them says, I can't go on those puddle jumpers. He says, because I get airsick. The other one says, oh no, he says, I get into an elevator and I get stable. And they gave me all. Then another guy said, oh, I have 11 kids. If I got killed on that, who's going to take care of them? So they gave me all kinds of excuses. I gave them $1,000 apiece to go with me, to go by ground, and I would go. Finally, after 5 days of flying, going through all the coastline, I found the vehicle, craft, and I flew back. Sure enough, the people that I hired, they were drinking tequila or whatever the terrible things, but they were driving on this Jeep, land close to them, and I'd say, okay, I've located them. And it was early in the morning. It was about 6:30, daybreak. So they said, okay, we'll follow you. You just keep an eye on us. And about hours later, I went up there and I got my carbine from the helicopter, and I went into the cave. Kidnappers were in sleeping bags, and there was liquor all over. On the last tent, Christian Brando, and I heard coughing like I'm coughing now. Sure enough, he was almost dead. He was dying because he had double pneumonia. I didn't know that until I got him back to the U.S. So when I would zip those bags, sleeping bags, and get them out with their hands up, line them up against the walls of the ocean. And because I had 5 guys now with federal police, was thinking that they were right there as a backup. I turned around, they were nowhere in sight. So anyway, I walked out with my carbine, and I had those people with their hands on the wall, some all naked, some with women, and all that. When I asked them, I saw some of the federales, I barely could spot their heads, and I said, oh, you guys can come out now, in Spanish. You can come out now. I've got everything under control. So they came up with their 45s, took over, and I went into a little tent that they had Christian Brando in. I got him out of there. I got him into the helicopter, flew back into the U.S. I landed at the airport, Los Angeles airport. I got Christian. I said, let's call the house to see if your father has left word when he's coming back. So he told me he'd be back in 5 days. So we called his number. Brando answered, and I said, I will speak to Marlon Brando. Oh, this is Marlon. Who is this? I said, this is Jay Arms. Oh, Jay. He says, I've got some more information. I've got a picture of Christian, and I said, I got something better. I said, I've got Christian right here. He paused for a minute. Put him on. We were calling from a telephone booth at the airport. So I put him on, and I heard him scream, and he says, Jay, stay where you are, and we'll be there. So he ended there with a police escort. I had a white shirt on when I started, and by this time my white shirt was black,
Oh, wow.
It was perspired and all that. So he says, and I told him, I said, we've got to get Christian to a hospital because he can barely breathe. So we got him to Cedars of Lebanon Hospital. They said he had double pneumonia, and Brando said, okay. He says, I have some people, my people there. It was 2 attorneys at that time. He says, I'll have them at the hospital, and Jay, let's go home and let's have a party. I said, no, all I want to do is change clothes, take a shower, and go back to my business.
That is incredible. That turned out really well, though, didn't it?
Yes, it did. The Lord was looking over me and over us,
I have to ask, because I own one of these myself, how did the toys and the action figures come about that portrayed you? What's the story there?
After a lot of publicity, got international publicity about this guy with artificial lamb. artificial hands that ended up solving that big case, and it was worldly known. You know, the Marvin Glass Company out of Chicago contacted me, and they said we're interested in doing an action figure. So they flew into El Paso, made a proposition, paid me at that time $250,000 up front, and that was a lot of money at that time. You know, $250,000 was huge. They did the action figure, and then I got contacted by McGraw-Hill, the publishers, and they wanted to do a book, so they sent a man by the name of Nolan, Frederick Nolan, from England, to interview me. They put me on the contract for the book. They decided to do the book in 30 languages, I think.
I gather that your spirituality is a big part of your life. What does your faith play in your everyday life, Mr. Arms?
The Lord comes before anything. Before I kneel at my bedside, I thank the precious Lord for everything that He has done for us, and I pray for everyone that is alive now. I pray for the military trying to defend our country. I even pray for Donald Trump as a good president that I feel. I've always voted for the person and not the party. I voted for Reagan. I voted for Bush. A picture of Bush, Cheney, and myself are in my front vestibule in my office. Bush was governor of Texas, and I was a city councilman. I had straight line to the governor's office. I got to know him, and I got to know Dick Cheney. They became good friends, and I went to both inaugurations of George Bush, my family and I, and my wife. My wife is Asian. She's Chinese. I met her because they had a supermarket close to my home. Is the youngest of all 5 girls. There was 5 girls. They all had prearranged marriages, and she was 16 when I met her, and she was the prettiest girl in the world, and she still is. When her family found out that I learned Chinese, speak Cantonese also. So when her father and mother learned that I was interested in their daughter, boy, I was cast away. But anyway, I started doing some work for the supermarket that the father owned, because of the hot checks and all that the GIs would forge and take off. And so I started being kind of successful. That didn't do any good to our friendship. But anyway, we ended up getting married, and I've been married for 50 years.
Well, the Lord has really blessed you then, I would say.
Yes, she's still beautiful. That's the way the Lord comes before anything in my life. I've always tried to tithe to the Lord's work, and I know that God doesn't need any money, but He needs for us to help educate people to come close to the Lord.
Thank you for sharing that. Lastly, what advice would you give to individuals who might be struggling using prosthetics or just words to live by in general?
I'm involved right now with Justin Lin as a director. They want to do a television series, and I would have. The only reason that I've had all kinds of offers by every movie studio, Universal, MGM studios, and I've never been interested, because what they do, when I was in show business, I would see all this smoking of drugs, marijuana, and all that stuff. I said, I don't want to be any close to that. But anyway, when Justin Lin and a lady by the name of Danielle Woodruff, she is an officer now at Netflix. When she came involved with, she used to be Justin Lin's executive secretary, running Desert Storm, the studio that Justin Lin is the president of. Anyway, they want to do a television series. So that's the only reason I wanted to be involved, to show people what a person can do by using his arms, or losing being amputated from any part of the body, that they can still be successful and more successful if they believe in the Lord and what the Lord can do for you.
That is definitely inspiring, and you have been an inspiration to me ever since I was a child. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to visit with me. I'm definitely going to have to make the trip down to El Paso to meet you in person. So thank you, Mr. Arms, for taking the time to visit with me today.
Wow, what an honor. J.J. Arms, my childhood hero and modern day inspiration. He overcame adversity, setbacks, and personal challenges, yet nothing held him back to become successful in life. Elements that we can all draw upon to become human together.